Hello everyone, this is yours Trivia, and today we're going to do a mod review for Total War 3 Kingdoms called Turning the Tide. So this is a Chibi start date made by Ironic Twist. He's a Discord member in my Discord. He also has a separate Discord for the mod. He just updated the mod last night, and this is anticipation of our Let's Play on Total War 3 Kingdoms next week, which will start on Tuesday. And we're going to be using this mod. So we're going to check out the mod first. This is also a very special day as it's sort of the 1-year anniversary of the game's support being cut. And we're going to kind of return to the game. So this mod was updated, as you can see, literally last night. And it's a very interesting mod because it turns the original start date, which is the one you can mod, into the 207 start. So Ironic went through a lot of work along with a couple of his friends, and they have formed this new start date with a lot of new playable factions, new mechanics for some of these new factions, shifting the start to a map that's more accurately resembling the 207 start. So there's a ton of stuff here, and you can't play any other campaign with this on because this literally replaces your base game, right? The 207 start date goes to your base game, and we're going to hop into game a bit later, but first just want to talk about getting mods, because I know not all my viewers know how to use mods. And essentially, this one has Chinese and Korean support. This new update that was put in, which is 0.7, it's still alpha. There's no 1.1 yet. The game's not officially finished, or the mod's not officially finished, and it's not officially ready for like a 1.1 or 1.0 release. And it's still a work in progress. There's a couple of actions it's not really flushed out. But overall, it's in a playable state, and for certain factions such as Suntien, which is the one that I will be playing, it's pretty flushed out. There's no any issues with it. There's new resources, there's compatibility with portrait mods, and we'll talk about a collection of mods that he's going to suggest and that I'm going to use. There are also new minor factions to play in. There's a structure of vassal for some of the major factions, as by 207. Some of the bigger factions are already very big for Total War game start date. And there's new skills, new units, and some new buildings. He's using a lot of the bandit building technique, with the minor settlement having another side building to add a lot of flavor to certain factions. Gate passes can have buildings as well. There's an overhaul for certain factions, such as the Obey, which was on the weaker side in the original, last update, basically. There's a vassal rework, which is incoming. I think they're going to try to change up Cao Cao's vassal system to an empire system. And there's a couple changes to the map. In terms of new factions, we see a bunch of vassal factions for Cao Cao, Zhang Liao, Xia Houyuan, Cao Ren. There is the northern nomadic tribes, Wu Huan, Xiong Nu. Sun Quan leading the Wu forces. He has a few vassals as well in Sun Ben, which would be his cousin. This is the Yellow Turban Remnant, Xu He. Song Jian would be a Western warlord. Zhou Yu would be another vassal of Sun Quan. And Chen Lan is one of those rebel factions that formed after Yuan Shu's destruction. I think in the game he might have classified him as part of Sun Quan as a vassal, but I gotta check that when we do hop into game. There are also returning factions that were already in the map from the 200 start, that they are returning for the 207 start here. The Southern Shi factions, Liu Biao, Huang Zu as a vassal to Liu Biao. These are all playable factions. Liu Bei, Cao Cao, Zamba, which should be a vassal faction to Cao Cao as well. Zhang Yan, same thing, although I don't know how he handled the bandit mechanic with that, but I think, vassals can be part of anything, so it should be fine. Shi Xie, Liu Zhang, Yuan Shao, which is now led by Yuan Shang. This is after Yuan Shao's death and sort of the defeat of Yuan Tan. So right now, Yuan Shang, the youngest son's on the run in the north. Still playable, but in most games, if he's the AI, he's going to die rather early. Gong Sun Du's northern factions led by Gong Sun Kang, his son, Meng Huo, Sha Mo Ke, and Mu Lu. There is no Lady Jerome because I think he has the marriage set up, and the High Empire. Unplayable factions on the map, a couple listed here, but are added in, and there's new mechanics for all these factions. Now, load order. We'll talk about this when we look at the collection that he has created here, which you can access here. And when we look at this, you have basically 12 suggested mods that you can use together that complements the Chibi start date mod, which can be used by itself, but there are a couple of things added in. So the gathering is sort of this mod that allows you to modify the script of the game. I think a lot of mods use this as sort of the core changing part of the game. It's given the first load order. You can see the list here is given in the correct load order, which we'll talk about. This is how you need to list your mods in your mod manager before you launch the game. It needs to be, the Gathering 1 all the way down to Improved Campaign Map Performance 12, if you want to use all of them. And if you don't, it's fine. Just skip out the ones you don't want. And we'll talk about what each one does. This is sort of the core script changes. And then if you want to use TUP, Total Unique Pack, which is another popular mod that adds a lot of models to the game, items, and there's translation for it, you can. And if you want to use the original TUP, you just need to include these two. But if you think TUP adds too many broken items and broken characters, Ironic actually went ahead and modified some of the changes to the stats of those items and characters. So there's a balance change that's fitted in particularly for the 207 start. And if you combine these, basically, you have a modified TUP experience that is more toned down. So these 4 mods here are really designed to get TUP to work and also to modify the values of TUP so that it's more in line with the other characters in the game. Then if you want even more artworks, you can use We Are Different Generals, or WDG2. It's a mod we have used before. Basically adds a ton more portraits, and this is also compatible with this mod. And of course, Make Them Unique is also compatible as well. Lastly, there are 2 sort of UI changes. This one's used by Ironic to hide the generals and candidate buttons on the family screen. I'm not going to be using this, but you can. There's also Graf's Cao Cao Credibility and Scheme Change mod. This one actually removes or tones down Cao Cao's credibility and scheme mechanic, because if Cao Cao is the AI faction, it gets very annoying for some players to deal with all the schemes that he will target you with. So you can actually just remove them with this mod. I will not be using that. I feel like it's fine dealing with Cao Cao as part of the game. Lastly, the last 2 mod, I think the 1.7.1 bug fix is sort of a community bug fix mod made by Alex, a very popular modder. That includes 85 bugs that were identified on the launch of Fates Divided that never got patched out, and it's fixed by him. So it's a very nice little mod to have. This includes certain things like animation issues, modeling issues, or some of the characters switching classes and not changing the value. So it's a neat little mod to fix those things. And lastly, I think improved campaign map performance is just an issue with almost all Total War games where the programming files have way too many folders and calls. Some of them are basically non-existent throughout the process of development, but they stayed in the file. They weren't cleaned up, so it actually slowed down your performance. Basically, the map is not entirely optimized, and this mod goes in and deletes some of those lookups, deletes some of those files so that your map will run a little bit better. So this is the whole collection. You can definitely use some of these mods in combination with your own favorite mod in the future. If you don't play Chibi Start Date, but you like some of the other mods you see here, feel free to add them in. All these mods are pretty great. Like I said, I will be playing this collection without these 2, basically. I don't need a UI fix. I don't need Cao Cao's scheme removed, but I'll be playing with sort of the maximum number of characters with unique art, with a combination of Make Them Unique, We Are Different Generals, and Total Unique Pack. Now, let's hop into game here. So let's go look at the mod manager. So once you have those mods subscribed, you don't have the mods yet. They will download into your game files, and you have to come here and tell the game which mods you want to use for your playthrough. And right now, I just have the Chibi mod selected because I want to just do a nice overview of the mod. I don't want to see any other changes brought on by other things. But when we do our Let's Play next week, I will have all of these active. And you can see this is the load order. It needs to follow the same loadout as suggested in the collection. And this is basically the way the files are read, so there's no conflict of things you need. And we have all 12 here. You can just subscribe all to the collection and flick on whichever one you want once you're here. So we'll just click play. It'll tell you we're playing with this mod, and let's jump into game. Alrighty, so as we hop into game here, we can start a new campaign and take a look at the 207 start. This is a huge endeavor. There is so many things changed. You know, for the old factions, obviously nothing's really changed here. But if we click on one of these new playable factions, the details included is amazing. So Suntien here, he has authority as his faction resource. There's the unique positions from his brother's faction mechanic. And these different positions can give you different bonuses to your faction resource. We won't go into too much detail regarding each because there's so much stuff to talk about. And also, we'll be playing as Suntien next week, so we can find out as we play. He has plenty of unique units, so there's nothing added for him. There is a new tax collector building for him, however, so there's a new building setup aside from Mercenary Outpost, which comes from his family. Basically, his father has this as his unique building. Strengthen the gentry, some unique assignments for the faction. Strengthen the family, strengthen the generals. So Suntien actually has a mechanic that's very similar to Liu Xie if you play the Han Empire in the 182 start, where you balance 3 different factions within your forces. Basically, all your generals will get one of these tags: gentry, family, or generals. And you have to balance the 3 for different bonuses. And there are assignments that can help you do that as well. A lot of notable characters. Obviously, if we do play with all those character mods, there'll be a ton more sort of noteworthy character with unique art and model in the game. And we won't talk too much about it. But you can see Ironic and the team went ahead and even did character backgrounds, which is a lovely flavor added to the game as well. And if we move around, the recommended factions are pretty much the most fleshed out, I believe. So Cao Cao is still around. We looked at him. Liu Bei has some new mechanic added for him, but no new buildings and so forth. There is the armory, essentially. I think he's given Yuan Shao's added mechanic in Face Divided, and sort of to make his faction a bit stronger. And then we have Vassal Factions. So Cao Ren is one of them. These locations are kind of based on where they were stationed sort of later on. Cao Ren right now was sent to basically the northern Jin province here. This is more historically accurate, I guess, for the post-Chibi period. But that's fine. And he's also going to shift around. He has a very vibrant career. But he'll also end up back here around 219 to take care of Guan Yu. So, interesting setup here. Quite a rough start, though. You have so many enemy factions around you. He's given a unique faction resource, preparation, that can give you different buffs for the faction. And it will also help improve relationship with your liege, which is Cao Cao in this case. He's also given a new unit, the Gallant Rangers. I took a look at these units in-game. They're essentially a pretty decent melee cavalry with range option. And the range option is the same ammo as the Defender of Earth. So basically bomb arrows on cavalry. Pretty cool. There's also a new assignment for him, and I believe he has one of those minor buildings that's unique to him. He's given a lot of the Ghoul Clan members. Not sure if this is entirely accurate, historically speaking, but I guess it's just a nice place to put them, especially since the core game, the base game, doesn't have them starting out with Cao Cao. Cao Cao also has a huge family tree. I think the family tree for most of these factions got a nice sort of update. So you have all the sons in the right places, in essence. And then we also have Zhang Liao, which is also a really cool start. We'll take a look at him a bit later in the, in this guide. He basically starts out up here with Cao Cao in the Wuhuan campaign, right? This is 207. We're chasing down Yuan Shang, who has joined up with the Wuhuan faction, Ta Dun in this case. This is in Liucheng. And Ta Dun will fight Zhang Liao and Cao Cao's forces in the White Wolf Mountain. Zhang Liao will lead that charge, which is sort of his turn 1 battle, to wipe out Ta Dun, essentially. And then he'll be sent, south to get his own land, which you can see is highlighted here. He basically gets the Huai region to defend Hefei from Sun Quan. He has a cool mechanic reputation as his resource, which would improve Zhang Liao's own army to become this incredible fighting force. He's given the Camp Crushers as a unique unit, and he has a patrol building. It's a side building chain, and there's also a bit of character background for him. He gets Lu Ji, which obviously if you have MTU or the other mods will get artwork. This is Lu Bu's daughter as a sort of wife candidate. I think it's just to spice up the faction. Yeah, not everything's entirely historical, but I think it's quite fun. It's also just a huge effort across the board to make this work. There's other warlords. Liu Zhao obviously already became a playable faction, so nothing to see here. Zhang Lu is a faction that's not entirely fleshed out, as you can see. Not everything is done. He starts out in Hanzhong here, and a bit of Shangyong, it seems. We also have Northern Warlords, Gongsun Kang, Gongsun Dual's son, who does not have unique features, or apparently not here at least. He does have a unique faction mechanic, Defense of the Han. Although it does talk about Han and Korean relationship, there is no sort of map extension into Korea or anything like that. You just basically can't do that with the mods. There's no resource to make new land to the map, but you could change starting position. And it's still an interesting northern campaign if you want to start this way. You can play as Yuan Shang, which takes over Yuan Shao's faction. You have your older brother, technically, Yuan Xi, the middle brother, the middle son, and you can try to rebuild Yuan Shao's faction. It's very hard because you don't start out with much and Cao Cao's on your doorstep. Suntien is one of these western warlords who went really west and formed his own little kingdom, eventually getting wiped by Xiahou Yuan down the line. But he's a playable faction. He's been a semi-unique character in the game with the title Lord of the Source, and he's given sort of a Qiang flavor. Speaking of Qiang flavors, we also have Han Sui as a playable faction, Ma Chao as a starting vassal to Cao Cao, because his father did join Cao Cao around this period and went to work for Cao Cao, so he actually, Ma Teng starts out in Cao Cao's faction, I believe, but Ma Chao's out here in the west. Xiahou Yuan, sort of the other vassal in the west, taking care of this region, defending it for Cao Cao. And then these are familiar factions we've seen before. Zhengjiang's been shifted south. Zhang Yan is a vassal, I believe, given the color here. Or perhaps not a alliance? I actually don't know, because the bandit relationship makes it quite difficult to mod, I would believe. And then we have two barbarians. Liu Bao, who represents the southern Xiongnu. He is given Cai Yan, who I think, in terms of historical accuracy, it's a little off because Liu Bao did become the Zuo Xianwang, but the Zuo Xianwang that actually kidnapped Cai Yan was the one before him, not him. But it's fine. Liu Bao's son will play a bigger role in creating Zhao Han, a state in the later Jin period, but that's another story. He has tributaries, and it's a mechanic that gives him prestige, satisfaction, increased salary and food consumption in the land, extreme penalties. I guess this depends on, what level of tributaries you have. You're given all the Xiongnu units, and in addition to that, I think these are modded units added in for him. These are not the Qiang ones. These are, I believe, Xiongnu ones that you can check out once in game. You can't even hover for a stat card here, so they're definitely modded units. Ta Dun represents the Wuhuan tribe, and he's also getting modded units to help him out. Now, the artwork might seem familiar because obviously they're not going to create new art. They're going to reuse some of the ones. This is like the Sanbei Horse Rider, but I don't think this is the Sanbei unit for him because he is representing the Wuhuan, which is on the flag here. The name is wrong, but that's fine. We have Chaos as his faction mechanic. Then we have the Southern Tribe, which are returning factions. We have a couple of rebel forces. Lei Xu, sort of a minor rebel put down by Cao Cao's faction around this period, sort of taking over Yuan Shu's faction. That's why you have the voice line, legitimacy. He's one of these rebels that stayed around in this area. We have one Yellow Turban faction in Xuhe, which seems to be quite the difficult go around here with Cao Cao surrounding you and being very powerful, and you just have a little piece of land here. Then we've seen most of these western vassals of Cao Cao. There's also Xun Yu, who I feel like it's kind of weird that he's given Donglai essentially. Xun Yu, it's probably one of these characters I feel like shouldn't be a vassal for Cao Cao. He's always, defended the base when Cao Cao went on campaign. So it's kind of odd to see him as an independent faction here. And then we also have Zamba, who help take care of the Xu and Qing problem. He should probably actually get more of this part of the land and not go farther south, but go farther east here. And then we have Vassals of Suntien. We're basically trying to split up big factions. Zhou Yu, Sun Ben, and Chen Lan. Chen Lan's kind of weird. I feel like he wasn't exactly aligned to Sun Quan, which I guess is why he's given the disloyal trait. But as you can see, not everything is totally flushed out. Then Shixia's factions are also, the vassals of Shixia are also all playable. And Huangzu as a vassal to Liu Biao is given like a vassal mechanic where you get bonuses for vassal. I think the units are given over from Sima Ai's campaign from the 8 Princes. I mean, the way modding works is you kind of shift a lot of resources that's existing in the game, and you kind of add it to different things. So with all that said, as we do a quick overview of everyone available, let's hop into the start for Sun Quan just to take a look at the faction. There is a unique cinematic provided. It's pieced together from a bunch of existing cinematic, but there is no music in the background. So we'll just skip over this. There is, however, new flavor text about a fallen north. So a lot of cool little things added in. Although it's not, perfect or 100% complete, it's definitely a grand effort. And definitely a mod worth checking out. Alrighty. So right off the bat, we have our parents getting married. We have our brother getting married. We have ourselves getting married. So basically, he's trying to set up the family tree correctly. Sun Quan will eventually marry Bu Lianshi and will eventually marry Yuan Yang, but we're going to get them right off the bat. We obviously don't have the character mods, so they're not going to get unique artwork or MTU treatment for most of them, but eventually we will. There is flavor text for this, and there's also, the starting missions, a nice starting battle, world events going on, and let's center the map north and take a look at things. So we are this dark maroon color. We have Zhengjiang as one of the threats. Our cousin Sun Ben is one of our vassals. Zhou Yu, sort of the western military vassal, technically, trying to help us fight in the Jin province. Chen Lan is our vassal here. So in our start, Zhang Liao hugs us, right? Hefei, right off the bat. We have sort of a deficit, which I think you can definitely fix. This is our turn 1 battle mission. And we have quite a few armies on the field as well. Many characters, which is probably why we are poor. We also... Let's see who we have. We have a bunch. Yeah, I think they're trying their best to give us pretty much the full roster. We have Zhu Ran's clan, the Ghoul Clan. These are all powerful gentry clans in the south. Bu Lianshi is here. Chen Wu, Cheng Pu, Huang Gai, Lu Su, Lu Xun already. Okay. He will be doing a lot of Tuntian work around this period. Yuan Shu's son, who came south. which is why we have the sister as well. Zhuge Jin, Zhuge Liang's brother, works for us. Jiang Qin, the Liu clan, which is also a pretty powerful clan in the Wu Commandery, will become in-laws with us. Zhu Zhi, our father's old friend. Pan Zhang, that's our wife, or one of our concubines, let's just say that. Han Dang, Lu Fan, Yu Fan, Sun Ren, Zhou Tai, Sun Quan. And this is the mechanic we talked about. So first there is authority, which builds up right here in different tiers with different bonuses. And complacency is sort of the negative authority. So it's kind of weird to have two different terms for it, but basically you can get used to it. Complacency is negative authority in this sense. So it's sort of a decaying factor to force you to try to find ways to maintain it. It's gained through battles, through characters in your court. And there are, I think, also buildings that help you build up authority as well. It's lost by expanding your influence. The more settlements, the less authority you have. So encourages sort of a vassal playstyle, which we sort of already have going on. You can see it increases your diplomatic income from tributaries, which also promotes sort of the vassal playstyle. Minus 35% corruption, all commandery. That's kind of weird because you're not going to have a lot of corruption if you have a lot of vassals, aka you give away a lot of lands. But maybe you still have like a huge chunk and you just have smaller vassals and you still need the corruption reduction. Maybe. 20 points of satisfaction. I assume that's faction wide. Minus 3 construction time. Very good. Armies additional provide 4 armies. And then 65 points of prestige. The family support, general support, clan support is what we'll look at. So these are sort of the 3 things. If you played Liu Xie's campaign, you're familiar with this. Liu Hong's campaign, I'm sorry, the dad, in the 182 start. And if we look at the court, you can see it better. So these are a bit different from Liu Hong's mechanic. I took a look at them, and I actually suggested him, I think it's maybe slightly misrepresented, because obviously each character has sort of a faction they represent, right? These are all generals that you have, and family are obviously your clan. And there's also powerful gentry clan, which he classified are the Lu clan, the Wu clan, the Ghoul Clan, and the Wei clan. There's actually a bunch others, but I think he just grouped that group in the south to be the local gentries. And you can see the value are cumulative. So whatever net value you have, this is from buildings, characters, and then you lose some from authority, from buildings, and you have a net value. And it's going to be added to your total until it reaches the maximum of 500, which you get different sets of bonus at each 100 tier. But this, I feel like, is not how this mechanic should be used. Essentially, you want this to be a snapshot of your faction, right? How are the balance between these 3 groups? And I think Liu Hong's mechanic does that, because it's not a cumulative one. It just takes your set value of the characters that you have right now and display them. So if you have, let's say, 7 or 8 points from gentry, then your gentry value would just be 8, right? It's not 8 every turn. And whatever your character for family, let's say 10 in this case, there's also buildings and stuff, I know, but like your value would just be that 10, or whatever your net value is, that will be your value. It's not added to a current running value that goes to a max. Because essentially what can happen here is you can get all 3 of them to the maximum level just by playing the game and advancing turns. Because as long as you're net positive, which we are for all 3 right now, we don't have to change anything. And we basically get to the final tier, which I understand have negatives and positives. So you want to balance certain things. But essentially, you can get all 3 to the max, and you can see the complacency and authority, different words, but means the same thing for our resource, which I feel it's kind of confusing. We'll be at negative 250 complacency, right? Or negative 250 authority. With all 3 maxed out, you can just add them together, right? You can think of all 3 of these as one buff, which I think loses a lot of the value. Because in the end game, what essentially happens is, I'm assuming you're going to get all 3 values high enough, they would just cancel each other out in a lot of the instances. Like you will have 100% income from all sources, 75% trade influence, you get 5 additional administrators, you lose 50% food production, you lose 10 morale, you lose 50% reinforcement range. And then over here, you lose 4 of those administrators. So essentially, you're going to get +1 administrator slot. You're going to get 75% desire for higher office, but you're going to get the 10 public order. And you're going to get the recruitment cost discount, morale in your own territory, minus 50% family estate, which is really low. You know, it's a base 2,000 value one. That's you don't have to worry about that. And then here, character salary goes up, night battle for all characters, upkeep increase faction-wide, +5 starting rank, plus 25% charge bonus for all units, minus 50% income from all sources, which will cancel out with the +100 here, so it'll be like +50. You get 10% replenishment. So it's like a bunch of things that will sort of cancel into each other, and you just basically get the sum of all 3. Now, of course, for certain things, if you don't like it, like you don't like the desire for higher office, that feels very punishing, you could try to keep it lower for a certain one. Guess that would be the playstyle, but in essence, I feel like they will naturally all fill up, which is not sort of the flavor you're going for if you want to sort of see the balance in your faction of the local gentry, of the family, and the generals. But regardless, it's a nice way to pull different resources from the existing game to sort of make an entirely new mechanic for the faction. And it's done quite well overall. It's not perfect, still complaining about certain aspect. And the rest of this, you have the court of your brother, right? So I have this very unique court with additional positions. You have the same thing here. Speaking of family trees, they're quite expanded, and some artworks from 8 Princes are ported over to be given to certain important characters. And we can see our big running family tree. Now, he is allowing you multiple marriages, but there's no way to display that on the tree here. So we get Yuan Shu's daughter as our main wife here. I guess maybe to get Yuan Shu on the screen. And you can see the rest of them, our poor family. Sun Ce should be in the first position, but it's okay. We technically should be in the second position. I don't know how the game actually works with this. I guess it depends on date of death, perhaps. And then there's our cousins, and then this is... Suntien alive. Why is Suntien dead? Suntien 207? I really want to say he's alive. Anyways, not that important, but we have all his kids as well, our cousins. And we might as well just use this opportunity to look at some of the other family trees we have. So obviously Cao Ren's quite small, but if we look at Cao Cao, it's quite big. Includes Cao Ren's pieces as well. Cao Cao has his sons, so many of them. Adopted son, Cao Zhen. So he's also given the son status here. Cao Pi, obviously. Cao Zhang, Cao Zhi. So these are the actual brothers, same mother, Lady Bian. Cao Chong, Cao Bao, Cao Jie. She becomes the empress of Han. So that's why she's quite important here. And then we have all the other cousins. Gongsun Kang going to Gongsun Du, Gongsun Gong as well. Yep. I'm surprised he didn't give Gongsun Khan his son, Gongsun Yuan. Maybe he's just not in the game and they couldn't really create a new character. Because a lot of these are pulled from actual characters in the game, from the tables. Han Sui's family, nothing to see here. Wang Zu's family. Jin Xuan. Yeah, some of the minor ones probably don't have it. Liu Bao, representing the Xiongnu. Liu Bei's family tree. Lady Mi's married. Adopted son, Liu Feng. Guan Yu. Guan Ping, I guess given Lady Guan. Just so that he has a wife. What happened to Lady Xiahou and Zhang Fei? Liu Biao. Liu Du. Liu Zhang. Yeah. Liu Xiong was his oldest son. He had other sons too. Let's see what else we have. Ma Chao. Okay. Meng Huo already married to Lady Zhu Rong here. Mu Lu. Pan Lin. Sha Mo Ke. The marriage between the sister to Duo Si already happened. So Duo Si's in his starting faction. Shi Xie's family tree. The brothers. Xia Hou Yuan. They're cousins, but Wow, 105. Yeah, they're not brothers. They're actually cousins. 夏侯霸. Okay. Guess he's actually in the game file. Yuan Shang. Zamba. Okay. Zhang Liao with Zhang Hu. Okay, Zhang Yan with Zhang Fang. Zhongjiang single. Zhou Yu has Xiao Qiao. And this is his daughter, who will marry Sun Quan's oldest son. Potential turncoats. Both Ling Cao and Lu Meng are willing to betray Zhou Yu here. Okay. Interesting. And it's also interesting Lu Meng starts with Zhou Yu, even though Lu Meng's really, really close to Sun Quan. And sort of it's assigned to take over Zhou Yu's position. You know, not right away. It's Lu Su and then into Lu Meng. And Lu Su already starts out with Sun Quan. It's kind of weird to see Lu Meng starting out with Zhou Yu instead of with Sun Quan there. Anyhow, we're not going to be showing any gameplay because we will be playing this campaign next week. So we're going to save that for that. We're going to go back to the main menu. We'll actually showcase a little bit of gameplay for Zhang Liao, which I think is pretty well designed as a starting situation. It's actually quite fun. So if we go to Zhang Liao here and we just start the game. I think they only added this one flavor text for everyone, but still, they added a flavor text. That's really, really nice. Alrighty, so we actually have another flavor text about the Battle of Daijun. You know, giving details of the strategies. This is sort of Guojia's last campaign. He dies on the way back. And we're basically gonna take Dai. At the beginning, we got the Night Bestelments. Oh, Cao Cao got Night Bestelment. We don't have it. So we start out in the north, even though we're technically supposed to guard Hefei area. And we want to take Dai in the beginning. You can see we drag basically Yuan Shang into this fight. We have the Wuhuan General Ta Dun near us. But that's going to be Cao Cao's problem. We're just going to help him take Dai here. You can fight it, but we're just going to delegate to save us some time. We're just showcasing this start. Lose some favor for fighting Han factions. We gain reputation. We'll take a look at that very soon. And we can gift it to our Vassal Lord. Cao Cao can have it. We got his reward. Reputation increase for 3 turns, public order increase, faction support increase. We are gifted Shouchun, and we get some diplomatic points. We control that, I believe, don't we? Ah, we are here to wipe out Chenlan, which is why, you know, Zhang Liao was sent here. He was here to wipe out a couple of the rebel factions. I guess Chenlan's given over to Sun Quan so that we will enter into a war with Sun Quan. We are in the south, tasked with wiping out bandits, and we're just suddenly here. You know, we have Yue Jin with us. Now, I did complain to him that what happened to Li Dian, right? Technically, it's Yue Jin, Li Dian, Zhang Liao defending Hefei, but in this case, we don't have Li Dian. But we have Jiang Ji, who is pretty active in the south, so I can see that. This is our brother, and then, like I mentioned, we get Lu Ji as a potential wife if we want to use that. Our poor son doesn't have a mother in the family tree. So we could find him a wife if we want. But regardless, that's just the fictional part. We have reputation as our faction mechanic. You get this by winning battles. Unfortunately, there's no flavor text for this. There's also an increase for being a faction leader and for being vassalized. So there's a bonus for playing as the vassal of Cao Cao. And there's also decay at each different level. So at this current level, the Loyal Hound, we are given diplomatic bonuses with Cao Cao. We are suffering 40 points of decay. Zhang Liao's army will get snipe. So if we're in a forest, we can shoot and stay hidden. We are given 1 additional administrator position, minus 5% construction cost, minus 4 morale. For defending enemy forces, that's worded a little bit weird. But basically when we're on defense. And then plus 4 morale when defending. Oh, no. Minus 4 morale for defending enemy force. So when we attack the enemy, the enemy will lose 4 morale. I think that's what this means. And then we'll get 4 morale when defending. So it's sort of like a plus-minus attribute. So there's always a 4-point morale difference, no matter we're attacking or defending. And then if we lose our reputation, you can see the decay goes down a little bit, and we just get the morale difference, only 2 points now. Negatives, when we are at this point, I think this is what, total 500? No, 1,000 point total. So I assume, actually it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, this may be 100, maybe 50, probably 100, probably 100, 200. And this is to 400, and this is to 700, to 900, to 1,000. That's probably the split, looking at the size. So if we're like between 100 and 200, we're losing all these bonuses. And if we're at 0 to 100, we are really losing a ton of bonuses. But if we keep fighting, and just by being a faction leader and being vassalized, we are essentially going to stay at least Loyal Hound. And there's also a unique stance that we have called In-Camp Patrol. So each of our armies can actually help us gain reputation 5 points. So if we have just a bunch of generals sitting on the field, as long as we have the army limit to do it, and we have 4 in the beginning, we should be able to generate at least 20 points of reputation a turn. Yeah, we're already min-maxing this, but we can basically get this going up pretty easily, right? With 40 points min-max with 20 points, right? Sorry, 20 points with 4 armies. And if we get basically 8 armies, we don't have to fight anything. We can cancel out the 80 points of decay, essentially. Just having 8 armies on the field in the in-camp patrol stance, which also gives us replenishment, also gives us trade influence for the faction. There's public order bonuses for local commandery. It's pretty good. Basically allows us to build tall, right? If we have the public order bonus here per army for local commandery. But we can basically cancel out the 80 points. And not only that, Zhang Liao's army, just his army, which is basically the one you kind of want to use, this sort of one army playstyle, will get Snipe, Stalk, and Unbreakable. That's a pretty powerful combination. So they will all be invisible. If they fire you, the AI can't see it. And they're also unbreakable. Very powerful. 3 administrator positions, minus 50% construction cost, faction-wide. Once again, really good for playing tall. Enable Scare, and 8-point difference for morale. So, pretty fun faction. Just all the mechanics given over to him. And that's just a really quick highlight of one of the factions that's probably more fleshed out, because this is one of the recommended factions in this mod. And, you know, with that, we don't want to drag this review too long. If you're interested, definitely install the mod, by the way we shown earlier on in this review. And you can hop around and check out which factions you might be interested, which start you might be interested. But I think it's really great work. Just having your army pop back, you know, get some historical relevance, as well as using the game mechanics to have you in a place where you can kind of role play defending against Sun Quan's forces here in Hefei, which you don't start out with, which I feel kind of bummed about. But regardless, if he comes, maybe we'll go defend it. So that's kind of the mod overview. I'm very excited to play as Sun Quan next week. Like I said, starts on Tuesday, so come check it out. Until then, bye!